Hey, beautiful women. So, I want to talk to you about four energies, archetypes, facets of us that we all have as women that have to be in alignment or at least be attended to in order to manifest purely and cleanly and powerfully. So the first, and then I'm going to give you a ritual for how to play with these in a really easy, simple, fast way. So the first energy is the inner child, and as with all four of these, you're welcome to think of this as an energy. You're welcome to hold this as an archetype. You're welcome to think of this as a facet or a part of yourself. Hold this in whatever way works for you, because it doesn't really matter, but it does need to be attended to. So our inner child, you can think of this as just, the parts of yourself that are, it's like still exist as a little girl. Like oftentimes there's like a sweetness and a tenderness, like that part of yourself that kind of gets hurt feelings when your best friend says something a little bit, maybe said something a little bit off, and you're like, oh, that kind of hurts my heart. But it can also be the part of you that is like, wants to just like play and dance loudly and exuberantly. So you might experience your inner child on the dance floor, or in a moment of silliness when you're playing with your own children, or when you're interacting with your partner, or like laughing uncontrollably. I kind of think of those being expressions of your inner child, like the part of you that just needs to like play and be loved and be adored and be accepted, which all children deserve. So the inner child, so that's number one. And when the inner child is not attended to, or not getting her needs met, or feeling neglected, or feeling suffocated, then that's often when we unconsciously start to self-sabotage. So we might be calling something in, like, yes, I want this, and making powerful prayers and setting powerful intentions. But if your inner child is not feeling taken care of, then that often will lead to unconscious self-sabotage, as one example. So the second energy, archetype, or part of yourself that we're going to talk about today is your inner power. I want to associate the inner power with the archetype of the maiden. So when we talk about inner child, maiden, mother, and crone, which are four archetypes that we'll be touching on, the energy of the maiden is our inner power. You can think of this as your third chakra, just the part of you that is powerful and libidinous and is creative and can create life. Not only in terms of actual life and procreation, but can create like powerful creations like a business or as a visionary. So your inner power, when the inner power is attended to and nourished, often with lots of self-care, then we're able to generate in a way that is effortless. Right? When our inner power is diminished, maybe because we're tired or we're sick, or we are engaging in activities or relationships that pull us out of our center, then creating can feel like an effort. It can have that feeling of like pulling up your bootstraps, just trying to push through, just kind of like, drinking caffeine just to kind of get through it. Those are often symptoms that your inner power, that you're like out of your inner power, you're out of your center. And ultimately, I think what we want is to be moving through the world as like deeply aligned, deeply centered, grounded, present women, right? To be able to show up in our relationships, to show up for our clients in a way that is like authentic. The third energy, archetype, or part of ourselves that we're going to focus on is the archetype of the mother. right? We just talked about the inner child, the maiden or inner power, now the inner mother. And we all, even if our mothers were very loving, we all have our relationship with our own mother is very complicated. It's very multi-layered. There's just a lot in there for all of us. And if you are a mother, the relationship with your children, as even if it's beautiful and easeful, it can absolutely be a challenge. It's also multi-layered. It's complicated. And so when we focus on the inner mother, we can be focusing on the parts of ourselves that are in mothering roles, right? We're like the mother of our business as something that we birthed and are raising and growing. In some ways, we hold mother energy when we're with our clients, in terms of holding space and being like the grounded present one, and giving advice and being curious and listening. But we can also be talking about the inner mother as an imprint of the messages that our own mother or aunties or grandmothers that we received growing up. So oftentimes our inner criticism, when we're kind of not in touch and nourishing the mother archetype within us all, oftentimes that is where our inner critic will arise. Because a lot of times the voices in our head, voices of judgment or criticism, come from unconscious messages that we received from mothers or teachers or aunties, that they may not have meant to put on us, but we internalized or even misinterpreted, and those turn into our own mind chatters. And so we want to really nourish the parts of ourselves that are related to being a mother, being in mothering roles, or being mothered. This also includes the mother wound or the sister wound. So that we can show up powerfully with women, we can show up powerfully in collaborations, we can show up powerfully in our businesses. So this absolutely relates with our inner power. And you can see how the inner mother relates with our inner child in dialogue. And so there's that relationship between the polarities there of mother and our inner mother and our inner child. The fourth energy archetype, part of yourself that we all have that I want to focus on, also needs to be in alignment for powerful manifestation, is our higher self. You might also think of this as our ability to open to the divine. I feel like that's tied in there. Our ability to open ourselves as a channel. This also includes, this is like crone wisdom, right? So this is like our higher wisdom, our deepest inner knowing, our inner goddess. You can also think of this as ancestral information, right? Like the crone wisdom of the women or the people that have come before you. If you resonate with working with guides or working with ancestral information. So we are absolutely able to manifest vision, create more powerfully when we are open to the wisdom of our higher self, of source. Because when we are in relationship with our higher self, we're able to lift up out of any circumstance or situation or relationship or tangle and kind of see the bigger picture. We're able to lift up out of any self-imposed boxes or unconscious tangles and really see like what's in it for everyone. How is there a win-win? Where is the silver lining? What is to be learned here? So your higher wisdom is like almost always connected to the bigger picture, and the almost like the concept that like you chose this. So when you're like deeply mired in something intense or overwhelm or upset or stress, there is that part of you that is always has the capacity to be like, oh, like I chose this experience, no matter how horrific, I chose this as part of my path to becoming a stronger, more potent woman, a brilliant teacher, channel. So there's always information to be gained from our higher self. When we're not in touch with our higher self, oftentimes there's a feeling of like isolation, aloneness, trying to figure it out. kind of looping on problems without perspective, without like higher perspective. All right, so in my next video, I'm going to be giving you a ritual to work with these 4 energies. Very simple ritual of releasing and receiving. And so stay tuned for that. And I invite you to engage in that ritual like on a regular basis, like maybe once a month or every few months, to kind of come back and really see, am I nourishing my inner child? How am I holding or engaging with or moving through the world with my inner power? What is my relationship with my inner mother? And am I open to divine guidance or the wisdom of my higher self? So more on that. Thank you so much for being here with me. And I'm going to give you that ritual next.